to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Aaron Williams. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. A Wednesday night that finds us night number 2 of the NBA play-in. The second team from the state of Florida participating in the play-in. Miami and Charlotte last night. What a game. Holy cow. Win or go home. I hope you caught some of that besides the technical difficulties on Amazon Prime right in the middle of overtime of a win or go home game. We'll probably get into that a little bit in a moment. But what a game. Charlotte wins it last night. And now tonight, Orlando takes on Philadelphia. Now, this is not win or go home. The winner of this game will be the 7 seed in the Eastern Conference. The loser of this game will live to see Friday, where they will take on Charlotte, and at that point, it is win or go home. So both Philly and Orlando have 2 shots to win 1 game. Their first shot is tonight. They're tied 18-18, 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. Winner is in. Loser has to play Charlotte on Friday in what would then be a must-win situation. Later on tonight, it's win or go home between the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. The winner will advance to take on Phoenix on Friday. The loser of Clippers Golden State, their season comes to an end later tonight. So the NBA postseason has begun. First round action will begin on Saturday. 4 games on Saturday and 4 more games on Sunday. So we'll keep you updated on Orlando and Philadelphia. Certainly the big news here locally is also basketball related if you're a Florida Gator fan, and that is Alex Condon announcing that he is returning to the University of Florida for his senior year. Alex Condon is a guy that flirted with the NBA 2 years ago, really flirted with the NBA last year, and he's going to play it out. He's going to play out 4 years as a Florida Gator as he announced he is returning. We're still waiting on word from Ruben Chinyelu and Thomas Houck. Again, the fact that Condon is coming back, to me, would lead to the idea that Chinyelu is coming back. I still think Thomas Houck is gone, but even if he is gone, you got Boogie Flan, potentially Denzel Aberdeen, depending on if he gets that waiver or not, and I think he should. His argument is he only played 41 minutes his freshman year. He should get a waiver for another year of eligibility. If he does, you got Flan, Aberdeen, Condon, potentially Chinyelu, Urban Klabsar, Isaiah Brown, on down the line. Boy, Todd Golden's going to have another really good team next year, and we'll certainly get into Alex Condon and why he is deciding to come back to the University of Florida. Speaking of college athletics, spring football wrapped up today over in Tallahassee. Florida State putting a bow on their spring practice. In fact, we will talk a little Florida State later on in the 9 o'clock hour. Logan Robinson is the owner and the founder of Knoll Game Day, and we will chat with Logan towards the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. Speaking of the NBA playoffs, do want to mention Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, one of our main NBA guys, has been so for years. He's going to join us not only to talk Orlando, but to talk NBA playoff picture as a whole, the favorite in the East, the favorite in the West, the best first-round series. We'll talk about all of it with Sean Devaney coming up at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. And we're never going to get too far away from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The NFL Draft, 1 week from tomorrow. It is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday up in Pittsburgh. Of course, you probably know by now the Jaguars do not have a first-round pick. What they do have are 11 picks, including 4 inside the top 100. I'm going to preview the Jaguar draft. I'm going to review the Jaguar offseason with a guy that I haven't talked to in a few months. I'm looking forward to the conversation with Mark Long of the Associated Press. Mark is certainly one of my go-to guys when it comes to the Jaguars and, quite frankly, the Florida Gators. I'll probably throw in a quick John Summerall question or two as well to Mark. He covers both Florida and the Jaguars for the AP. So Mark Long will join us coming up here in about 15 or so minutes. We're glad you're with us on a Wednesday evening here in Northeast Florida on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Aaron Williams, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, but it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
All right, Alex Condon returning to the University of Florida. You know, for people that don't like NIL, and I don't disagree with you if you don't like NIL or if you think it's gotten outrageous, because there are aspects of it that have gotten outrageous. When these college kids are making, you know, $2 or $3 or dare I say $4 million a year. I mean, that's crazy money for 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, right? I don't know if when we were talking about NIL and compensating players, you know, 5, 10 years ago, if this was the idea that we had. But as a result of NIL, you have situations for Florida like you had this afternoon. A guy like Alex Condon returning for his 4th and final year in Gainesville. There isn't a chance on this planet without NIL that Alex Condon would be coming back to Florida. He probably wouldn't have come back after last season. But NIL, being able to make something, now sways decisions from going to the NBA or going to play overseas to, yeah, I'll come back to college. You know, the transfer portal is what it is. We don't see guys play out the stretch at the school they committed to. You just don't in this day and age. How many guys play 4 years at one university anymore? They either go to the pros and they're given sport, or they transfer to another school. I mean, you can probably count, honestly, Florida basketball-wise on one hand over the last decade how many guys actually played there for 4 years. That's what Alex Condon's going to do. 4 years. You think about some of the great 4-year players at the University of Florida, right? Matt Bonner, for example. Udonis Haslem, for example. Guys like that. I think Wilbekin was a 4-year. I think my guy Patrick Young, come to think of it, was a 4-year guy. But you just don't see it very much anymore. But because of NIL, that is why Florida is able to retain a guy like Alex Condon. And you have to ask yourself, too, with the popularity of Condon during the national championship year, with the popularity of Condon this past season, and now he's coming back for his senior year, is there a conversation as to where Alex Condon is going to rank all time among Gator basketball stars? Yeah, there probably is a conversation. Not tonight. We'll do it closer to when they tip off in October or November. But Alex Condon, I mean, Gator Nation, you get, I mean, there was some mock drafts, some that had him as a late first rounder. Most had him early to mid second round. But you get Condon back, you get Boogie Flan back, you should get Denzel Aberdeen if he gets that 5th-year waiver. Now, all eyes are on Ruben Chinyelu. All eyes are on Chinyelu. And I said it to Rick. I'll tell you again. Why did Micah Hanlockton, who's trying to get a 5th year of eligibility, why, if he gets that 5th year, as he already said, he's entering the portal? Why would there be any other reason for Micah Hanlockton to enter the portal unless he already knows what we started to learn today? And that Alex Condon is coming back, and that in Hanlockton's case, he's a center. Ruben Chinyelu is coming back. So I expect Chinyelu to come back. Condon is coming back. I don't expect Thomas Houck to come back. Now, I know Gator fans on social media, about an hour and a half ago, Houck made a comment under Condon's post that he's coming back, said, oh, yeah, or something, and people are like, oh, man. Thomas Houck's trolling a little bit doing that, I think. Or he's just happy for his friend. But I told Frangie this on the Frangie show. Right now, if you're the 20th pick in the draft, and I've seen Thomas Houck picked anywhere in these mock drafts as high as 14. I think the lowest I've seen him is like 23 or 24. So if you take a good number in that ballpark, let's say number 20, and this is what I looked up. You take number 20. If you're the 20th pick in the NBA draft, you get a 4-year contract worth over $17 million. $17 million for 4 years. And J.J. LaSilva made a good point earlier. Not only do you do that, but you start the clock for your second contract. If Houck comes back to Florida, he'd probably make $2 or $3 million in NIL. Absolutely. But $2 or $3 million for 1 year is not $17 million guaranteed for 4 years. It is asking a lot of Thomas Houck to come back. Now, Condon's his best buddy, his roommate. Houck only has 1 year of eligibility left. Houck loves Gainesville. Houck obviously loves Todd Golden. But Thomas Houck was already a key contributor on a team that won a national championship. He's already been to the mountain. The only thing that I could see that would bring him back to Florida is the opportunity to play 1 more year with Alex Condon and to be the guy on a team that goes to the Final Four. Houck was a guy in 2024, but he wasn't the guy. That was Walter Clayton. That was Will Richard. To a lesser extent, Elijah Martin, Alex Condon. Houck was the sixth man, if you remember the national title year. Does he want to be the guy on a team that gets Florida back to the Final Four? There's some merit there. But does all of that outweigh a 4-year, $17 million contract in the NBA? I would probably say it does not. I would be very surprised if Thomas Houck comes back. But again, you get Condon, if you get Chinyalu, if you get Denzel Aberdeen cleared, you know you got Boogie Flan. Those will be 4-year starters. Who is going to start for Houck if he leaves? I was talking to Frangie earlier. He thinks it's C.J. Ingram. Yeah, I probably agree with that. Maybe Isaiah Brown's in the mix. You got Urban Klabsar. You probably need to add 1 more big man if Houck leaves. You probably need to add maybe 1 more shooter. But Florida, if Chinyalu comes back and if Aberdeen clears the NCAA, they're a preseason top 10, dare I say preseason top 5 basketball team. Todd freaking Golden, man. Guy's putting in some work. There is absolutely no question about that. That's the college basketball side of things. The NBA side of things, the play-in going on right now up in Philadelphia. Philadelphia leads 28-26 over Orlando at the beginning of the second quarter. I am happy the Magic are showing a little bit of pride after losing to the Celtics G League team on Sunday. This game should have been in Orlando. All Orlando had to do was beat the Celtics G League team because the Celtics sat like their top 6 guys. No, they still beat Orlando because Orlando showed absolutely no heart, no fight, nothing. So at least in the first quarter in Philadelphia, they're having a little bit of pride. If they had any pride whatsoever, they were going to show it in the first quarter because they've gotten obliterated for the last 3 days because of that horrific performance on Sunday night. 28-26 Philadelphia. We'll keep you updated. Winner to the 7 seed. Loser has to play Charlotte on Friday in a win or go home situation. As we mentioned, we are 1 week from tomorrow away from the National Football League draft up in Pittsburgh. 55 players will come off the board as of right now before the Jaguars make a pick at 56. But the Jaguars will get 4 cracks at it, 4 picks in the top 100. That's pretty good, right? You take my Wolfson High School education. There are 32 teams in the National Football League. What's 32 times 4? 32, 64, that's 128, correct? Right? 128. So if you average it out, the Jaguars' fourth pick should come around 128. Instead, it comes at 100. So they are going to have 4 picks before some teams have even their third or certainly their fourth selection. So from that standpoint, you may miss out on some of the quality in round 1, but quantity-wise, maybe best player available-wise, it should be a decent draft for the Jaguars. And that goes into the best player available. We hear that term every year. Take the best player available. Well, that's all nice to say, but usually teams have needs to fill. Usually teams have positions that they need to target. And Jacksonville has that. But of any Jaguar draft in recent memory, I mean, going back well over a decade, if there were to ever be a situation you take the best player available within reason, wouldn't this be it? Now, I mean, they're obviously not taking a quarterback or anything like that. That's not within reason. But if an offensive tackle or an offensive guard falls to you at 56, could you see a world where they take him? I could. If a wide receiver or a defensive back falls to you at 56, could you see that? Yeah, I probably could. Tight end, certainly linebacker, certainly edge, and certainly defensive tackle. You know, normally when a team's picking in the top 5 or top 10 or top 15, you can kind of narrow it down to certain positions or even certain players that team is going to take or certainly target. I don't know if you can do that with Jacksonville. During this process, we've heard a lot of linebacker names, right? Anthony Hill, Jacob Rodriguez, Jay Galladay, Trotter, the young man from Missouri. You hear Grayson Halton, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. You've heard some defensive back names. You've even heard some tight ends like Oscar Delp from Georgia. There's a lot of mystery into what the Jaguars are going to do. I've told you guys for a while, 11 draft picks, but I'm mainly focusing on those first 4. The first 4 inside the top 100. In no particular order. I'm going linebacker. I'm going interior D-line. I'm going tight end, and I'm going edge. And then I'm hitting cornerback pretty soon thereafter. Those are my 5. I don't care what order they go in. I don't care where it falls in the draft. But to me, looking at this Jaguar roster, linebacker, interior D-line, edge, tight end, corner. Those are 5 positions that I want. After that, wide receiver is in play, I think, certainly. You need somebody towards the bottom of the roster, 4th, 5th wide receiver option. Remember, Tim Patrick has not re-signed. They tried to get Jake Bobo from Seattle, who was basically a younger Tim Patrick, a big physical blocking wide receiver, good on special teams that you would use in goal line packages. Seattle matched that offer. So if you're looking for what the Jaguars may do at wide receiver, go look at every wide receiver over 6'4", because that appears to be a need that they have. Are they going to draft a running back? Maybe. I'd say in the late rounds. Are they going to draft an offensive lineman? Well, yeah, when you have 11 picks, I think every year you got to spend at least 1 on an offensive lineman. Where are you going to play him? Well, you'll figure that out. But I don't see you drafting 11 picks and not at least having 1 offensive lineman. To me, I would double up at the interior D-line. I would go 2. Get an edge, get a linebacker or 2, get a corner. Possibilities are endless. It's going to be fun to watch. Going to be fun to watch. Again, next week on Thursday is round 1. Right now, the Jaguars will probably be pretty quiet that day. But in round 2, they have pick 56. And in round 3 is where it's at. Picks 81, 88, and pick 100. Let's talk about the Jaguar offseason. I haven't talked to this guy really since the Buffalo game. My buddy Mark Long of the Associated Press will look back on the Jaguar offseason that was. We'll look ahead on the Jaguar draft that is to be. And we'll do that with Mark Long of the Associated Press. He joins me next on a Wednesday night here in Jacksonville, Florida. And we're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock. Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Ever wonder what Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser did before the drill?
How long have we been friends? We're not friends.
Dan and Jeff.
But if we teamed up, it could bring your career to the next level.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Awaken 180 weight loss. Awaken 180 weight loss. Hacker here. And in fact, I got a new shipment of some Awaken 180 products earlier today. Some shakes, some smoothies. I love it. I'm still doing it. I love the Awaken 180 shakes. That's the one thing, right? People talk about, well, is it diet food? No, it's not. The Awaken 180 coffee shake, the mocha shake, the chocolate shake are unbelievable. And they're so easy. They come in these bottles. You just fill the bottle up with water. You shake it up. You down it. And that is it. It is idiot proof. I did it. And I lost over 100 pounds thanks to the great folks of Awaken 180. No shots, no needles, no medications. It's knowledge. It's coaching. It's learning why you got as big as you are, learning how to take it off, and learning how to keep it off. That's the Awaken 180 advantage. If it's time for you to drop the weight like it was for me, go to awaken180weightloss.com. That's awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800 and get involved with the great folks of Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Hey Jacksonville, this is Sullivan from Cycles of Jax. If you're looking for bikes that are designed with precision engineering and innovative features to ensure every ride is a memorable one, then you need to check out what Honda has right now, Ready to Ride. From touring bikes designed for long-distance comfort to compact models perfect for city commutes, each motorcycle promises an exceptional riding experience. See us on Instagram and Facebook at Cycles of Jax. It's all in our showroom, so come check us out.
Take a radio boat ride with Captain Cabin on the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show. Wheeled in by the Pest Pros at Royal Pest Services and Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, Director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick. We're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees. About $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org and you can apply there.
Apply by May 14th.
Owning a house is kind of like being in an argument with your house. One day, it's the AC saying, I'm tired. The next day, it's the plumbing going, good luck finding that leak. Then the septic system joins the conversation. And nobody likes what it has to say. That's when you call Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. One team that handles all three, plumbing, septic, and air conditioning. So the next time your house tries to win the argument, call Duck Rooter, 904-862-6769 or duckduckrooter.com.
Credit card interest rates are now over 29%. Most people are only making the minimum payments, so they're getting nowhere. Hey, Prosser here, but here's what many homeowners don't realize. Using the equity in your home, you can easily access hundreds of thousands in cash. With Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan, you can pay off your credit card, your existing HELOC, your car loans, or get money for that home improvement project. One client just got $100,000 approved and saved over $1,500 a month. Here's the best part. With Loan Pronto, you can do it all from your phone. With zero out-of-pocket, no hard credit pull up front, no appraisal, no long drawn-out bank process, and no touching your first mortgage. Rates are at a near 3-year low. Act now. Go to loanpronto.com. See how much you can get in about 60 seconds. Loan Pronto, 2,800 5-star Google reviews. Call 904-999-1508 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, Rockstar. Let's look at your account.
When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything.
Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The NFL Draft next week up in Pittsburgh. The Jaguars currently do not have a first-round pick. What they do have are 11 picks, including 4 in the top 100. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about the offseason that has been. And they just wrapped up spring football down in Gainesville. John Summerall also pretty hot on the recruiting trail. Let's talk about all of it with Mark Long. He covers both the Jaguars and the Gators for the Associated Press. And Mark is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Mark, how you doing?
Hey, Hack, how are you?
Hey, Mark, we're good, man. Thank you so much for the time. All right, you and I haven't spoke really since the offseason began. Let's kind of start with free agency. Boy, really uncharacteristic of the Jaguars. As quiet as they were, only one addition in Chris Rodriguez. Obviously, the two big departures of ETN and Devin Lloyd. When you look back on free agency, what do you make of what the Jaguars did?
Yeah, it is clear to me, Hacker, that they like their team. Now, again, financially, they didn't have a lot of room, didn't have a lot of money to go out and upgrade, but they like their room, they like their team, they like their roster. And this is as much of a run back as we've seen in years, really, for this franchise. It's probably the norm. This is what you hope to do. It's what you set out to do, which is build through the draft, supplement through free agency, and really try to develop within. So that's where they're at. And you hope for their sake that they develop some of the guys who they drafted last year, because they didn't get a lot out of that draft class. And you hope that they look at this draft, 11 picks, and they certainly should be in position to mostly draft best player available, especially if it lines up with the context of as it lines up with some of their needs.
And let's talk about those needs. Let's begin at running back. ETN is gone. Rodriguez is here with Tootin and Allen. Mark, do they have enough at running back, or do they need to address that next week?
Yeah, I mean, 11 picks, they can almost address everything, right? I do think they'll take a running back. I do not believe that DJ Dallas is a guy they're looking to as, hey, we want him to be on the field. We want to play him if needed. I do think they're going to look at this as Bashul Tootin and Chris Rodriguez as kind of a 1-2 tandem with LaQuint Allen as the number 3. But again, it's a room that you got to have 4. You need depth. If you can get a guy in, the 4th, 5th, 6th round to see what he becomes, don't forget, the Rams. We're going to point to the Rams a lot. The Rams are their model, right? That's who they're following here. And the Rams took Kyron Williams a couple years ago in the 5th round, I believe it was, 4th or 5th round. And that's what they want. They want a running back they can pick middle round and develop and not re-sign those guys, use them up, and then kind of move on to the next one.
Mark Long of the Associated Press. Similar question, Mark, on defense. Devin Lloyd is now a Carolina Panther. Obviously, Ventrell Miller, Jack Kaiser, and James Gladstone keeps mentioning him, so I will too. Branson Combs are here. Is Devin Lloyd's replacement here, in your opinion, or is that replacement going to be drafted next week?
Yeah, I would be shocked if one of those guys ends up replacing Lloyd. And it's not to take away from Ventrell. I think Ventrell's a good player. In fact, there were people in the building who thought Ventrell was going to win that starting job last fall in camp, thought he was going to win that starting job over Devin Lloyd, and ended up going to Lloyd. Obviously, Lloyd made the most of it, was fantastic. I think Miller will get a shot, but again, here you are. Miller is 23, 24, 25. He's in the final year of his deal, fourth-year guy who hasn't done a ton. So even if Miller does win the job, you better have a plan for do you want to re-sign him or do you need to replace him? It's always that. It's one or the other, right? Re-sign or replace. Usually it's draft and replace, right? You're drafting a guy, and then you got to start the second you draft the guy, you start thinking about, how am I going to replace him? When am I going to replace him? When am I going to have to replace him in 2 years, 3 years? So yeah, I think linebacker to me is the number one need for this team. A lot of people talk about D tackle, they'll talk about pass rusher. To me, it's linebacker because you didn't replace Lloyd, because you have a bunch of unknowns on the roster. And then you got Foye Oluokun turns 31 this summer. Now, again, I'm not saying he can't play 2 or 3 more years. He's been fantastic by all accounts, but I certainly think you got to start making a plan for what are you going to do with Foye at his price point, at his experience. Legs go quick in this league. So do you need to have a plan for replacing him? Maybe it's Kaiser and Miller. Maybe it's Branson Combs, but I wouldn't be surprised if they add 2 new faces to the linebacking core.
Mark Long of the Associated Press. Mark, I agree with you with linebacker. You mentioned interior D-line. Let's go there. I think Eric Armstead's going to be here when the season starts, although the Jaguars could save a lot of money if they cut him after June 1st. We know Devon Hamilton is scheduled to be a free agent after the year, and then who really knows about Mason Smith, right? I mean, that guy was a healthy scratch at the end of last year. To me, I agree with linebacker, but I also think you need to add at minimum 1, maybe 2 interior D linemen next week as well.
Yeah, and it's I think it's arguably outside of maybe that pass rusher spot. It is defensive tackles the deepest, certainly I think it may be second or third deepest pool going into the draft. So there are guys you'll be able to get maybe in the 3rd round. They got 3 third-round picks. Maybe you get a defensive tackle in that 3rd round, and they're gonna take 1. They might even take 2. It's another one where I don't think Eric Armstead is here. I think given the fact that he's 32 years old, given the fact that his production dipped last season, given the fact that you can save $14.5 million in a post-June 1 cut, I think you keep him on the roster. You get through OTAs, see what he's at, see what you got coming out of the draft, and then all of a sudden you cut Eric Armstead and you let him go find a team in the summer, and you take that $15 million and kind of bank it for whatever you need to do. Don't forget, they got to find the money not only to sign the draft class, but they're on the record of saying they want to get Brenton Strange and Parker Washington signed before the season, ideally before the season. So, you got to find that money. And to me, Eric Armstead is one of the big time financial windfalls from cutting. You can get, there's not a lot of guys you can cut and get 15 million against the cap. He's one of them. And given his age and the fact that, you do like Devon Hamilton there, you're going to play Trayvon there on 3rd downs a little bit more inside. Some of that stuff to me tells you that Eric Armstead won't be on this team. My belief.
No, and I don't disagree with that. And let me ask you this, because of how close you are to the Gator program as well. 2 months ago, I didn't think there was a prayer that Caleb Banks would be there at 56. And I still don't think he's going to be there. But, Mark, that foot issue might be scaring some teams off. If, for whatever reason, Banks starts falling or even lasts to 56, and if you're Jacksonville, is it worth the risk with his foot to take him in the 2nd round?
Yes. And I think the world of him. I think he's a good dude. I think he's got a good attitude. He works hard. He's had some bad luck with the foot injuries, right? It's a risk, but you're not taking a risk in the 1st round. You're taking a risk late 2nd, 56th overall pick. That's you could do it at that position given his talent level. if you turn on the tape, he was fantastic at the Senior Bowl. He was great last year against FSU, even better against LSU last year. Go back 2 years, 2024, turn on the tape of Ole Miss, absolutely dominant. He calls that his best game of his college career. So there's enough there. You know, if you think you can get him some foot, whether you get him send him to a foot specialist, get him some special cleats, whatever you got to do, I think there's enough there to take a flyer on Caleb Banks at 56.
Mark, what do you make of the Travis Hunter discourse on social media? You know, I know the fantasy football people are outraged because they took him in the top 5 and they're just all up in arms that he's going to be primarily a defensive back. But for people saying, well, he's only going to be a DB, he's not going to be a wide receiver, the Jaguars have never said that. And yet people just took that and ran with it last week to the point where Travis Hunter was basically calling people out on social media saying, where have you guys been hearing this stuff? What do you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, I think people are extrapolating a little bit. The Jags made it clear at the end of the season, after the season, when their wrap-up press conference, I think it was, where they came out and said he's going to be used more on defense, mostly because of a need situation. It's not a slight on Travis Hunter. It's just like, hey, look, they let Greg Newsome walk. They traded away Tyson Campbell. They do have some players there with Jarian Jones, obviously, and Jordan Lewis and Monteric Brown. There are 3 legitimate starters there, but they do believe that Travis Hunter, that's, where he can maybe play his best ball. And here's the other thing about that is they added on the offensive side of the ball. When you look at Jacoby Myers, they signed him after losing Travis Hunter. They all of a sudden Parker Washington kind of came out of nowhere last year and looks like he could be maybe a number 1. They have hope that Brian Thomas Jr. will get back to his rookie form. So when you look at it, it's like, well, where is he more needed? And it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's what this is. They still have plans to play him on offense. I don't know how much it's going to be. It might depend on what happens with Brian Thomas Jr., what happens with Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington. I thought Jacoby maybe was less utilized down the stretch last year. Parker was a little bit more the guy. Brian Thomas is obviously their big guy, big play guy. But I absolutely think Travis Hunter will play on offense. Maybe not to the point where it's going to satisfy fantasy owners, but if I'm, you and I both play fantasy football, I'm not drafting Travis Hunter. Maybe in the last round as a little bit of a flyer kind of pick, but I would not draft him offensively just because I think he's going to be buried a little bit on the rotational depth chart to where he might not get the opportunities that we thought he was going to have. Now, again, that all can change. What if they get, some great offer for Brian Thomas Jr.? I would not be stunned if they traded Brian Thomas Jr. around the draft, and all of a sudden that opens up a spot, and Travis Hunter is now in the 3 starting receivers. But it's a lot to me. It's probably much ado about nothing. I think, the kid will play. The kid will make plays on both sides of the ball when it's all said and done.
Final moments, Mark Long of the AP. Mark, I want to end with a Florida thought, so let's go about 60 seconds here with the Jaguars. You look at Parker Washington and Brenton Strange. As you mentioned, the Jaguars in a perfect world would get both of those guys done and extended before the season. My thought, if I'm Parker's camp, is I don't know if I want to do that, right? I mean, I don't know if there were 10 wide receivers in the league that were better than Parker Washington. There weren't statistically in the last 5 weeks last year. If Parker goes for like over 1,000 yards this year, he's going to get a lot more money come March. And if you're the Jaguars, you want to get it done because you could franchise Brenton Strange. It would be a lot easier to do that. That's going to be interesting to see how that works itself out here over the coming months.
Yeah, and you hope Parker likes the team. You hope Parker likes the area, likes Jacksonville, because then you feel like you get a little bit of a hometown discount. But the reality is, Jacoby Myers signed for, what did he sign? 3 years, 20 for $60 million. Is that what he signed for?
Yeah, 3 for 60.
20 a year. So that's a starting point for Parker Washington. I don't think there's any scenario where Parker's people don't walk in the room and say, hey, listen, our guy outperformed your guy last year, led the team and was 3 years, 60 million. So 40 of that guaranteed. I think that's a starting point for Parker Washington. You go into the room and you're going to say, hey, listen, Parker Washington put up better stats than Jacoby Myers, especially down the stretch, and he returns punts. Throw that in there, and all of a sudden, you've got your comp and you've got a reason to say we want more than 20 a year. So are the Jags willing to pay, 21, 22 million a year for Parker Washington? Maybe. He's a lot younger and he returns punts. I would think that they do, but if they do, then obviously you got to find a way to make him your number one receiver moving forward.
It'll be interesting, too, because like you mentioned, Parker, Brenton Strange, if you want to lump in the likes of Antonio Johnson, Ventrell Miller, Ezra Cleveland, Devon Hamilton, all of those guys are scheduled to be free agents after the 26th season. Mark, leave us with this. Orange and Blue game just wrapped up. Certainly appears to be maybe a quarterback competition, more so than we thought, between Aaron Philo and Tramel Jones. But I got to tell you, man, you're down there every day, so I'm looking at it from afar. But I look at John Summerall, and I look at what he's doing on the recruiting trail. I look at what he's doing with generating excitement. They have 47,000 in the building for a spring game. That guy's biggest flaw to this point is his name wasn't Lane Kiffin. After you get past that, I don't know if you're a Gator fan how you can't be anything else but ecstatic at what John Summerall has done. Wins and losses are all that matters, and that'll come in September. I get it. But my goodness, 3.5 months in, I think he's done a terrific job.
Yeah, it's going to end up being the unanswered prayer, right? He's going to end up being the guy nobody wanted, nobody was looking for when it all started, when the whole Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin saga started. Nobody had John Summerall on their radar. You start digging in, you start talking to people, and, there was some concerns with Lane Kiffin. How would he really fit? What's he really going to be like around in the building, around other people? He's quirky, right? So John Summerall's none of that. He is an everyman. He relates to fans, players, administrators, other coaches for the other sports. He is everything you want when you're talking about building a program, and not just a athletic, football program, but I'm just talking about an athletics department. He is everything supportive. I think he's already been to more basketball games than Billy Napier did in 4 years, right? Good friends with Todd Golden. Everybody can relate to him. Now, winning is everything. Can he win? Because but what you said, he's getting it done on the recruiting trail. I thought after the spring game, he was phenomenal. And what he said was, hey, listen, this thing's a sleeping giant. We got to wake her up, and we are going to win. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how quickly.
It's been fun to see so far. Florida got a lot of excitement with a 5-star O-lineman and a couple of 4-stars at quarterback and corner. The recruiting trail has been hot recently for the Gators. Mark Long of the Associated Press. Mark, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for the time, and we'll talk soon, pal.
Okay, sounds good.
Streaming live from the XL Digital Studios. Polished by Harbor Dental Care, the locally owned smile restoration experts. 1010XL.
It's only about winning.
Oh, look at this. Goes deep. How about that? Touchdown. Here's Tebow. How about that? Touchdown, Florida. The legend is expanding.
Where we win together.
Rick Ballou here with a congratulations for John's Auto. They've been in business in Jacksonville for 40 years. That's right, going all the way back to 1985. Right now, they'd like to thank each and every one of you who's ever gotten their vehicle service at John's Auto. So, car, truck, or diesel, all makes, all models, whether it's a routine maintenance or a complete engine overhaul, go to John's Auto on Arlington Road, JohnAutomotiveJacks.com.
At the First Coast YMCA, there's no place like this place, with programs and experiences that will bring your whole family together. Summer will be here before we know it, and Why Summer Day Camp registration is now open. Visit your local Y to secure your child's spot early for a season full of memories and adventure. Don't delay. Day camps will fill up. There's no place like this place, so visit your local Y to sign up or online at fcymca.org. Search Summer Day Camp.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Looking for an exciting, fun-filled evening the whole group can enjoy? Welcome to indoor football. Welcome to the Jacksonville Sharks. Discover the thrill of the indoor league. Fast-paced, action-packed, and it's family fun. Be there when your Sharks take on the Orlando Pirates Friday, April 17th at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Kickoff, 7 o'clock. Halftime performance by the world-famous Disconnected Canines. Ask about our family four-packs. 4 tickets and $50 in food vouchers, all for only $100. There's no better value. Get your tickets now at jacksharks.com or call 904-621-0700. It's Country Night presented by Roland Reese Plumbing. Dust off your boots, throw on your camo, get ready for a night full of football fun and great music. Join us on the field after the game for our free autograph session, sponsored by Flight Adventure Park. Tickets start at $15. Call 904-621-0700. That's 621-0700. Sharks football, where memories are made.
Go Sharks!
Fins up.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to Mark Long of the Associated Press for joining us this evening here on Hacker After Dark. More Jaguar talk coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Also some NBA playoff talk. Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, will join us coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. Speaking of the playoffs, the play-in going on right now up in Philadelphia. 76ers and the Magic. 76ers lead 59-55, 28 seconds to go in the first half. This game is being streamed on Amazon Prime, much like last night's game was between Charlotte and Miami. And what a game that was. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but Miami and Charlotte back and forth. Tyler Hero making miraculous plays. LaMelo Ball doing his thing. It was a lot of fun last night between the Heat and the Hornets. But one of the crazy things about the game, all right, Maxey missed the three. So 59-55 at the half, Philadelphia. One of the crazy things about the game last night was about 2 minutes to go in overtime. Back and forth. Action is hot and heavy. People are really getting into it on social media. And then, bam, technical difficulties right in the middle of overtime in a win or go home game in the NBA postseason. Now, could that have happened on a network? Could that have happened with ESPN or TNT or, certainly one of the big boys, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox? Yeah, it could have. They all have technical difficulties as well. But when you're a streaming service and you're fresh into the game of sports and sports, postseasons like they are with the NBA this year, man, that was not good. Now, they're lucky it was the play-in. Can you imagine if that was Boston, New York, Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals overtime, and Amazon Prime has technical difficulties in the middle of that? Or if that was an NFL regular season game or even, at some point a postseason game. Aaron, I guess what I'm getting to is I'm a very old 42, right? You're 10 years younger than me. I am good with Twitter. I guess Facebook is still a thing, right? I'm pretty good with that. I'm not sure about the gram. I know even my 6-year-old tells me about the gram. I'm really not into that. Or TikTok or any of that stuff. I mean, I guess I have those apps. I never use them. But when it comes to streaming, right, I've figured out Netflix, and I can find stuff on Prime Video. I can find stuff on Peacock. I mean, I can find it. But when you have to find it, and then you have the worry of technical difficulties like they had last night, I don't know. I know streaming's here to stay, and I know it's going to be, who knows, 5 years down the road, maybe every sport out there will be on a streaming platform and the networks will be gone. I have no idea. Who knows what's going to happen? But you're always worried when you enter a new thing with streaming that the technical difficulties thing last night, no one's really talking about it because it was Miami and Charlotte in the play-in. Well, what if that was the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals? It would be an enormous story.
I can tell you who is talking about it. Charlotte and Miami fans that are watching it, you know, neck deep watching the game, sinking their teeth, and then bam, the score is a 3-point game at that point, and then it just happens, and you're thinking, I'm on ESPN, I'm like, oh wow, so Charlotte just scored 2 points, they just to go up, or it was whoever it was to make it a 5-point game. Look, stuff happens, you know, like you said, ESPN, ABC, whoever, that's happened with them before, but you're right, it's not a good look when you're fresh into, you know, taking the big
it's the first year
and
of
stuff.
it.
Yeah. So when you're fresh into it, and like you said, if that was, you know, Game 7 of the Western Conference or Eastern Conference Finals, or dare I say even an NFL game, oh yeah, they're going to get a lot of backlash for that. So they got to nip that in the bud quick.
Yeah, they got to figure that out pretty quick. I totally agree. And you know, you talk about the play-in. Philadelphia up 4 now on Orlando. Portland Phoenix was a great game last night. And that Miami Charlotte game, I'm not over dramatizing it. It was awesome. Watching Tyler Hero do his thing, LaMelo Ball do their thing, and a must-win game for both teams. If you're Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, and you wanted justification for the play-in tournament, last night is probably all you needed, because it was terrific theater, these teams battling just to get into the first round. Odds are every team in the play-in, including my Orlando Magic, are going to get whitewashed in round 1 by the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the given conference. But those play-in games last night were spectacular. The first half of this game has been pretty good. And oh, by the way, later on, you got Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers against Draymond and Golden State in a must-win game for both teams. Somebody's season out west is coming to an end this evening. More on the NBA playoffs coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, will join us then. Back into the world of the National Football League. Also a thought on Florida State as well, as they wrapped up their spring practice earlier today. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us till 10 o'clock every night here on Hacker After Dark.
Play-by-play sports just sounds better on radio. For high school, college, and pro sports play-by-play, turn on 1010XL.
Next time you head into a Gate convenience store, look for Form Energy Drink, designed to provide energy, hydration, and focus straight from Dana White and AB, celebrating those who embrace grit, discipline, and resilience in their everyday lives. Check out Form Energy at a Gate convenience store.
Big Brothers Big Sisters is teaming up with the NFL to inspire change. From now to draft day, Big Brothers Big Sisters is following the NFL draft, aiming to recruit potential bigs. Hi, I'm Brent from the 1010 sales team. I'm committed as a mentor, and we need you to step up and become a mentor too. There's a waiting list of more than 50 children hoping for a mentor. It's just a few hours a month. Be a mentor, become a big. Visit bbsnefl.org. Be a mentor or visit Big Brothers Big Sisters and click on Big Draft.
Listen to whatever you like, whenever you want.
I like this.
1010XL on demand. Ad-free shows after the live shows end. Channeled by Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning. Search where you find podcasts.
Credit card interest rates are now over 29%. Most people are only making the minimum payments, so they're getting nowhere. Hey, Prosser here, but here's what many homeowners don't realize. Using the equity in your home, you can easily access hundreds of thousands in cash. With Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan, you can pay off your credit card, your existing HELOC, your car loans, or get money for that home improvement project. One client just got $100,000 approved and saved over $1,500 a month. Here's the best part. With Loan Pronto, you can do it all from your phone. With zero out-of-pocket, no hard credit pull up front, no appraisal, no long, drawn-out bank process. And no touching your first mortgage. Rates are at a near 3-year low. Act now. Go to loanpronto.com. See how much you can get in about 60 seconds. Loan Pronto, 2,800 5-star Google reviews. Call 904-999-1508 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Leon Serza here, your lemon pepper guy. You know Wingstop always delivers, and I'm not talking about their cooked-to-order, hand-sauced and tossed chicken sandwich in your choice of 12 mouth-watering flavors. I'm not talking about the house-made ranch, so good nobody will blame you if you double dip. I'm talking about Wingstop that delivers straight to your door, and did you know they're open until 1 a.m.? So visit wingstop.com or use the app to get flavors delivered right to your door, late night, only at Wingstop.
Can't stop. Wingstop.
Not everyone is built for a cubicle. At Local 234, apprentices get paid to learn hands-on skills like plumbing, pipe fitting, HVAC, the stuff Jacksonville runs on. No endless lectures, no massive student debt, just hands-on training, real jobs, and real pay. This is how you level up, by doing work that actually matters. Check them out at UA234.com. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Local 234. Make the right connection.
For the greenest, luscious lawn on the block, choose the local legends, Roundtree Sod. Don't just settle for ordinary. Let Roundtree Sod deliver you a picture-perfect lawn. To get a free estimate, call 7414-SOD. 7414-SOD.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Approaching halftime here on Hacker After Dark. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. We'll take you up till 10 o'clock as we do every night. You know, I was talking to Frangie about this earlier with him on the Frangie show. You know, for years and years and years here on 1010XL in the months of February, March, and April, boy, we did a deep dive into the draft. And not that we haven't this year. Obviously, we have. I've had numerous draft people on, and we'll continue to leading up to a week from tomorrow in the NFL draft. But Dane Brugler of The Athletic, Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN, Todd McShay as well, obviously very popular this time of year. Three of the main draft guys out there all put out mock drafts today. Kiper's was 2 rounds. Brugler's was actually 7 rounds. He did a really deep dive. But as I'm looking at these mock drafts, it just dawns on me. And I know I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but looking at these mock drafts today just brings it back up. You know, in years past, Jacksonville's been so terrible that we're always picking in the top 5 or top 10 or top 15. So, man, by this point, we know about the top 20 prospects. We know about the best offensive tackles in the draft and the best linebackers and defensive ends in the draft and quarterbacks and wide receivers. I mean, you name it. We have a firm understanding here in Duval County of the best players in the draft and who we hope the Jaguars ultimately select. But I'm looking at the mock draft today. The draft's next week. We've been talking draft now for 3 months? Probably a little under 3 months after we decompressed from losing to Buffalo, start getting into the draft talk late January. We know about Fernando Mendoza, right? We've talked about him a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. The Heisman Trophy winner, 16-0, Indiana, national champion. He's going to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think I've talked about David Bailey at all in the last 2.5 months. No reason to. Jaguars aren't going to draft him. He's projected to go number 2 to the New York Jets. How about Arvell Reese to Ohio State? Haven't spent a second on him. Jeremiah Love to Tennessee. That would be interesting. The best running back in the draft. Now, Tennessee has Tony Pollard. They have Tajay Spears, but the thought is, do you want to pair a Jeremiah Love with a Cam Ward and let them grow together? Spent a little bit of time on Jeremiah Love. Caleb Downs, number 5 to the Giants. Again, very little time, if any at all. Sonny Styles of Ohio State. Carnell Tate of Ohio State. First and foremost, how did Ohio State not win the national championship? Arvell Reese, number 3, Ohio State in Mel Kiper's draft. Caleb Downs, number 5, Ohio State in Mel Kiper's draft. Sonny Styles, number 6, Ohio State in Mel Kiper's draft. Carnell Tate, number 7, Ohio State in Mel Kiper's draft. Kiper has 4 of the top 7 being Ohio State Buckeyes. And that doesn't even count Jeremiah Smith, who would be the number 1 pick this year if he was eligible. He will be the number 1 pick next year. How did that team not win the national championship?
That's the real question, Hack.
It's unreal. Unreal. When's the last time a team had 4 of the top 7 picks if Kiper's mock draft plays out accurately? Number 8, Ruben Bain, Miami. New Orleans. Be a great get for New Orleans. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State, goes 9 to Kansas City. Mansour Delane from cornerback from LSU. Francis Malagoa from Miami. All right, I'm familiar with him. That's 11. Caden Proctor, the big tackle from Alabama, 12 to Cleveland. My point is, and obviously I'm not breaking any news here, the Jaguars don't have a prayer getting any of these guys. But for me personally, for the first time in a long time, if ever, since I started on Sports Talk Radio, I just don't know a lot about the top half of the draft. I know the names, but I can't tell you about arm length and 40-yard dash and what this scout is saying and what that scout is saying, because we haven't talked about them at all. At all. That's what happens when you don't pick till 56. The one thing that does stand out, though, about Mel Kiper's draft, quarterback at 1, fair enough. Linebacker 2, linebacker 3, safety 5, linebacker 6. Well, we live in a world of offense. No doubt about that. And I'm not saying Mel Kiper's going to be right, but he is the godfather of NFL mock draft media. If 4 of the first 6 are defensive players, what does that tell you? It's offense, offense, offense. Offense sells the tickets. Offense, we think, wins the games, right? You got to score points to win. 4 of the first 6 in Kiper's mock today go defense. Just interesting. Something to think about when you're watching the draft next Thursday night. Of course, the Jaguars won't start selecting more than likely until Friday when they have 4 selections in day number 2. NBA playoffs. The play-in going on right now. Philadelphia up 4 on Orlando. We saw 2 great games last night. Round 1 will start in unison this weekend. We already know a couple of the matchups, right? You got Cleveland and Toronto in a best of 7. You got the Knicks and the Hawks in a best of 7. You got LeBron versus KD. Lakers, Houston in a best of 7. You got Ant against the Joker. Minnesota, Denver in a best of 7. Let's talk about all of it. Sean Devaney, our NBA guy with Heavy.com. He's covered the league for years, and he joins me next on a Wednesday night here in Northeast Florida with you till 10 o'clock, Jacksonville. Glad you're with us on Hacker After Dark.
I'm Josh Scobie.
Scobie sweeps the leg, 59 yards away.
On 1010XL.
He's got it. Jacksonville wins.
Get in the zone, AutoZone. John always listens to his truck. So when his brakes start talking, he goes to AutoZone, where a helpful AutoZoner gets him the right parts. If John has time to put them in, he borrows a kit with Loan-A-Tool. And if he doesn't, he gets a free shop referral. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Deposit required for Loan-A-Tool. Restrictions apply.
Hey, Jacksonville DDH. Dreamfinders Danny Hicken here with the scoop from Dreamfinders Homes, your national builder of the year. We've got first-year interest rates as low as 2.99% in homes in 20-plus communities throughout Northeast Florida. If you're house hunting, make sure your first pick Dreamfinders Homes, the proud official home builder of the PGA Tour, the Florida Gators, and your Jacksonville Jaguars. Visit dfhsalesevent.com today and tell them Dreamfinders Danny sent you.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today from GFL, Green for Life.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach. 1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still present, ready. Farah doesn't flinch. Here's another call on the 1010XL hotline, driven by Key Buick GMC, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. And just like that, it is NBA playoff time. The play-ins are underway. Obviously, first-round action will begin this weekend as the 2-month gauntlet to the NBA championship has begun. Let's preview the playoffs. Let's talk a little Orlando Magic with Sean Devaney. Heavy.com has been one of our NBA guys for years, and Sean is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Sean, happy playoff time to you, man. How are you?
It's spring when the playoffs come around, Ryan. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we're going to talk about teams that actually might have a shot to win this thing in a moment. Let's first start with the Orlando Magic. Sean, 36 years as a fan, I don't know if I was ever more embarrassed on Sunday night when the Boston Celtics G League team, that's basically what it was, beat Orlando to put them in the position where they are right now, playing a game in Philadelphia. I mean, what a nightmare that was for Orlando on Sunday night.
Yeah, and it kind of encapsulated the whole season, right? It's just been a major disappointment across the board for Orlando. Obviously, they make the trade and they give up the 3 first-rounders and the pick swap for Bane. And certainly, I thought, this is the move that is going to put them over the top, and it looked like that had the potential to do that because he's the kind of two-way player who can, really fill in a lot of the things they needed. A good shooter, certainly a great defensive player. It looked to me like they would be a defensive juggernaut that'd be able to score enough to win a lot of games. And it just never really came together. There was something missing. There was a certain passion, a certain intensity that just was never there with this team. And it's hard to say why. It's hard to say what exactly was missing. But yeah, that game Sunday to go out and lose to, Luka Garza and Baylor Shireman and Ron Harper Jr., that was that sort of summed up everything that's gone wrong for this team this year.
I thought Brian Windhorst said it best. There's a reason Boston is where they are, and there's a reason Orlando is where they are. And you saw it on Sunday night at the TD Garden. Now, whatever happens tonight, if Orlando beats Philadelphia, their reward for that will be Boston again, which would be a nightmare. If they lose tonight, then they play obviously on Friday, and if they win that game, then they get Detroit, which again would probably be a nightmare. Translation, they're not getting out of round one unless just something very odd happens. And if that's the case, Sean, and if they're gone in the next either couple of days or week or so, Jamal Mosley's gone too, correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's almost a foregone conclusion at this point, unless they were to pull off. Give them a little bit more of a chance, I think, against the Pistons if they were able to pull off an upset there. Would that be enough to save Jamal's job? Probably not. Even that might not be quite enough. Too much has gone wrong. Pretty clear, you can tell when a team has tuned out the coach. Pretty clear that's what's happened here, and it just seems like there's really there's no way back. Right now, they probably need a roster overhaul, or at least the need to consider. Do we trade Paolo? Do we trade Franz? How do we approach what's next? But anytime, and you've been watching sports long enough to know that if the choice is changing the players or changing the coach, they'll change the coach first before they get to the players. So that'll be next, and then maybe there'll be something with the roster down the line. But Jamal being out is almost a foregone conclusion.
And quickly, Michael Malone was my guy, and then he decides to go to North Carolina for a bunch of money and kind of shocked a lot of people. So now that he's off the board, I guess Taylor Jenkins, but everybody's going to want Jenkins. Tom Thibodeau's available. I mean, where would you look if you were Orlando if that job comes open?
Yeah, I think Tibbs is probably your best bet, just because it is a team that I think he would have some interest in. We'd have to see who else is, what other teams have vacancies. But, in terms of a team that the talent is there, it just needs to be better organized and kind of, given a kick in the pants. The Magic are right there. So I would think that would be a team that would interest, whether it's Jenkins or whether it's Tibbs, some of the better candidates are going to have interest in the Magic.
Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. All right, let's talk about the Eastern Conference playoff picture. We know a couple of the matchups that are already set. Atlanta and New York should be a pretty good one. And then Cleveland, Toronto as well. What's your early thought on those series?
Yeah, Atlanta really tried to wrangle itself a matchup against the Knicks. They felt like that was the better way to go, and you can certainly see why. Atlanta plays very, very good defense. They play a similar style as the Knicks, and they felt like they could match up pretty well with them. You'd still have to have the Knicks as a favorite, but the Knicks are coming in with a huge amount of pressure. I mean, they've got the starting five with Jalen Brunson and Cat and Anunoby and Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. That's $175 million starting five, and they've been hugely disappointing this year. They've managed to win 50-plus games, but they've had some real lulls where they really look like just a not very good team. So they've got a lot of concerns. With championship expectations, they have not lived up to that as the number 3 seed. So very interesting. What could happen with them? The Hawks are probably the hottest team in the East in the second half of the year. So that's a tough matchup for the Knicks. I think that's going to be a lot more challenging than what they had hoped to get in that first round.
And then, you look at the Raptors and the Cavaliers. We'll ultimately see what happens there. Clearly, Cleveland would be the favorite, but Toronto has played decent basketball. Out West, we know 2 series already, Sean, and it's going to be a slugfest in the West. Yeah. I mean, good grief. Minnesota, Denver. How good is that going to be in round 1? And then you got Durant versus LeBron with the Rockets and the Lakers. What's your early thought on those series?
Yeah, so Denver and Minnesota is really fascinating because coming into the year, you could certainly imagine that being a second round series. Minnesota's made the conference finals the last couple of years, and of course Denver has a championship in its recent past in 2023. So you've got 2 teams that are pretty well polished in terms of their playoff resumes, and to have them meeting in the first round, you just don't see that very much. Denver really struggled with health all year. Whether it was Jokic, obviously his injury got the biggest amount of attention, but Aaron Gordon was out, Peyton Watson was out. They've had some really key players out throughout the year. Now that they're healthy, they've been really terrific over the last 2-3 weeks of the season. So they're going to be a real juggernaut there. The Timberwolves, it's sort of the opposite. They're dealing with their injuries right now, where you have Anthony Edwards has had knee problems, Jaden McDaniels has had knee problems, so they've got to be healthy there. Really, it's probably going to be health more than anything that's going to decide that series. And then, of course, with the Lakers and the Rockets, what you're getting. Without Luka in there, and I'll be really surprised if he plays in the first round. And then you have Austin Reeves out as well. well. So a lot riding on LeBron at 41 years old. And Kevin Durant, not a spring chicken either. But I think you'd have to at least give the Lakers a puncher's chance just because they have LeBron James, and you just never know with him.
Couple of more. Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, covering the NBA playoffs. The play-in is already underway. Round 1 will begin on Saturday. The top 2 seeds in both conferences. Let's begin in the East. Detroit and Boston. I just saw Boston's G League team beat Orlando. When you throw Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Jason Tatum out there, I almost think even though they're the 2 seed, Sean, are they not the favorite in the East over Detroit right now?
Yeah, I think that would be accurate. The Celtics are a team that have been, pretty consistent throughout. And, what's been amazing about them is that obviously they were without Tatum for the up until early March. And, you take away your best player, most teams are going to suffer. And that's sort of where the attention has been. But, they traded away Drew Holiday and Porzingis, and they didn't bring back, Al Horford. They lost a lot. Luke Cornett as well. They lost a lot from last year, but they had guys who they were able to develop and coach up and get them to contribute right away. And when Wendy said that about the Celtics, that's exactly right. I mean, they had guys ready. Jordan Walsh, Namus Keita, the starting center. These aren't household names, but they came in and they really filled gaps for the Celtics. Derek White has been fantastic. Peyton Pritchard has been fantastic. And then, obviously we've seen Jaylen Brown have an MVP type year. And then you drop Jason Tatum back into that mix, and it's really worked out very, very well. And it's nothing against the Pistons. I think they probably overachieved a little bit. They're a young team, but with the experience level that the Celtics have, I think you'd have to have them as the favorite, as well as the depth. Just what we saw with how they play and how they approach each game.
And then same question out west. The defending world champion Thunder are the 1 seed. San Antonio, who's kind of been the fly in the ointment for Oklahoma City, is the 2. How would you assess those 2 heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, and really, the Western Conference playoffs, we talked about the Nuggets and the Timberwolves and the Lakers and the Rockets, and that's all going to be very entertaining. But it's all, appetizers because the entree is going to be the Western Conference Finals, where everybody expects it'll be the Spurs and the Thunder and San Antonio, really kind of, I think the wins that they had over Oklahoma City early in the year really set that team to start thinking of itself in a different way. They're a young team, and a lot of times it takes some time to find your way. But I think they found their way by beating Oklahoma City. They beat them a couple times in a short amount of, it was like twice in a week earlier in the year, and you really saw their confidence grow from that. It helps to have Victor Wembanyama, of course, but and really all the depth that the Spurs have. But I think those couple of wins really did sort of change the trajectory of this season and just how fast the Spurs have been able to come on here. So yeah, that's going to be we know what the Thunder do, but really the Spurs do a very good job of matching up with what Oklahoma City does, and that's going to set up I think a really terrific Western Conference Finals once we get there.
Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. Sean, as we wrap up, the 4 teams that are playing tonight, the 7 and the 8 seeds. You got Orlando, Philadelphia going on right now. Later on tonight, you're going to have a matchup between, a team in Golden State and the Los Angeles Clippers. You got really good talent on both. Injuries have plagued both teams. Of those 4, Orlando, Philadelphia, Golden State, and the Clippers, who could potentially make a run in the first round for an upset?
Yeah, I think Philadelphia is probably the one, and we'll see if they can what they can do against Magic. But just when you look at what they've got, whether it's if you can get Joel Embiid back, obviously the appendix thing, it's very much up in the air whether he comes back. But if they can stay alive long enough to get him back, they were playing pretty well. When he was healthy, you've got Paul George and Maxi's been terrific, and the rookie VJ Edgecombe. So, that's a team that really, was one of those teams you didn't want to play if you were one of the Eastern Conference contenders up until the Joel Embiid appendix thing. So, if Embiid can get back out there, at some point and still be effective, then that's a really dangerous group. So I would say probably Philadelphia.
Sean, 30 seconds. We'll hopefully have you back on in a couple of weeks as we approach the conference finals. But as we kick off the playoffs this weekend, who's going to be in the NBA Finals? Give me a team out west and a team in the East.
I'm going pretty chalky here with Oklahoma City. I do think that their experience level just is too much, and their talent and their ability to defend is just too much. So Oklahoma City, and then the Celtics coming out of the East.
Told the good folks here in Jacksonville, Sean, Heavy.com, and the coverage you guys will have as the playoffs begins.
Yeah, we're looking at the off season as well already. I mean, obviously that's going to be a big thing. A lot of trades, a lot of free agency, a lot of NBA draft stuff, and of course NBA playoff coverage as well.
Sean Devaney, Heavy.com. Sean, enjoy the first round of the playoffs. We'll talk soon, pal.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Story is the foundation of all entertainment.
1010XL.
It's a fun name to pronounce. Try and say it.
Where stories come to life every day.
So you're finally gonna put me in one of your stories.
Welcome to Key Buick GMC, proudly family-owned and operated since 1943. Come see why they're North Florida's new and pre-owned truck center, conveniently located on Southside and JTB, just minutes from the St. John's Town Center. At Key Buick GMC, every new vehicle comes with our lifetime powertrain warranty. Key Buick GMC, we are professional grade. Online at keybuickgmc.com. Lifetime powertrain warranty covers engine, transmission, drivetrain only. Exclusions apply. See dealer for details.
Hey folks, Mike Dempsey here for Dandy Foods, a Jacksonville family business for nearly 70 years. Heck, I've been talking about them for over a decade. The Thompson family secret, Dandy is never frozen. Always fresh baked bread with quality meats and cheeses. No dry, crumbly subs here. Only soft and tasty deliciousness. When I see that logo with the little guy with the cane on the label, it tells me I'm getting a trusted brand and a quality sandwich. So do what I do. Stop in at a Circle K and make yours a dandy today.
Your tax refund has plans. A vacation? A flat screen TV? Well, your plumbing has other ideas. If you've been putting off a major repair, this is your chance to get the work done and save money. With the tax refund plumbing upgrade from Duck Rooter, get $500 off any major plumbing repair over $5,000. That's real savings. Duck Rooter delivers honest, upfront pricing and experienced pros who do it right. Call to schedule a free estimate. 904-862-6769 or duckrooter.com. Financing is available.
Put a little hot sauce on your lunchtime listening.
Spicy.
Joe Coward, Matt Hayes, and Leon Searcy. They are XL Prime Time.
4-alarm fire.
From the big #1 Duval Ford Studios. Noon to 2 weekdays on 1010XL.
An evening with legendary comedian Jeff Foxworthy.
But they have a rule in my neighborhood. If you walk your dog and your dog does his business in somebody else's yard, you need to get a little plastic bag, pick it up, and dispose of it. So you drive through my neighborhood and there's all these attractive women walking around with poo-poo purses.
Jeff Foxworthy Live, April 23rd, 7:30 p.m. at Thrasher Horn Center. Get tickets now at thcenter.org.
Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball at the newly renovated ViStar Ballpark is your home for affordable family fun. Tickets start at just $5. Fireworks after every Friday home game and kids around the bases after Sunday games. Log on to jackshrimp.com for tickets and details. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, affordable family fun.
Don't wait around like you're the last pick of the draft. When your car needs an oil change, go where you're a first-round priority. Valvoline Instant Oil Change. No appointment needed. Just drive in, stay in your car, and in 15 minutes, you're back on the road. That's a first-round performance. With convenient Jacksonville locations, a 4.7-star national rating, and named #1 Quick Lube for customer service by Forbes, Valvoline delivers every time. Visit the newest Valvoline Instant Oil Change at Beach Boulevard and St. John's Bluff.
Get ready for spring turkey season.
season at Green Acres Sporting Goods. Find shotguns trusted in the field from Browning, Beretta, and Benelli. Plus, the newest bows are ready to test shoot from Hoyt and Matthews. For over 55 years, Green Acres Sporting Goods has helped Northeast Florida hunters gear up with confidence. Stop by Green Acres today at the corner of Normandy and Hammond Boulevard, or shop online anytime at greenacresporting.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. When it's game time, Farah doesn't flinch. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And thank you to Sean Devaney, Heavy.com, for talking NBA playoffs with us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Orlando now trails Philadelphia by 11. And look, they lose tonight. They play Charlotte on Friday in Orlando in a win-or-go-home scenario. I'll tell you, Aaron, I just want them to go home at this point. You know, you're a diehard fan of a lot of sports teams. I am too. There comes a time in every season or every couple of years, I guess, where you just want the season to end. I've certainly felt that way with the Jaguars over the years. I've felt that way with Florida football over the years, and I just feel that way with Orlando this year. The season cannot possibly end quick enough, because at least when it's over, then you can start looking ahead to the future as opposed to it ongoing and just getting frustrated and mad and just knowing that it's just a lost cause right now.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I mean, I understand. You know, there were a lot of years where the Rams were very, very bad, and I'm just like, you know, I just can't take any more of this. But like you said, you know, it most likely will be over soon, and
it'll be over Friday.
Yep.
The way they're playing, it'll be over Friday. They're not going to beat Charlotte the way they're playing like this. They're not going to beat Philadelphia the way they're playing tonight. And they don't deserve it because, look, you lost to the Celtics G League team. You were the biggest underachievers in the NBA. Is that all the head coach's fault? No, but it's darn sure a part of his fault. And he's going to lose his job, and they're going to hire somebody else, and they'll start over again in October.
I feel like you're never going to let that go, that loss to Boston.
Yeah, it'll bother me for a long time. When the Celtics rest 7 guys and they still beat you in a game they did not need and in a game you needed, the ultimate embarrassment. Absolutely humiliating. Florida State, not that that's a good lead-in to Florida State talk, but they are finishing their spring practice today. They held a scrimmage as Mike Norvell looks to right the ship of a 7-17 campaign over the last 2 years. Is there a quarterback competition in Tallahassee? Truthfully, I just don't know a lot about what's going on in Tallahassee. The media has not been really allowed to watch practice. There was no spring game. Mike Norvell and Florida State, I guess Florida State has decided to not do a Seminole spring tour to speak to Florida State fans across the state. So obviously there's just a lot of unknown. Excuse me, a lot of unknown about what's going on with the Florida State Seminoles. But let's talk to one of our main guys when it comes to Florida State, my buddy Logan Robinson. He is the owner and the founder of Knoll Game Day. We will talk to Logan about the quarterback competition, about the pressure on Mike Norvell entering the year. Are there any positive vibes coming out of Florida State football? We'll talk about all that. Logan Robinson, Knoll Game Day, next, right here on Hacker After Dark.
He meets pedal to the metal.
Is the tire going to make it all the way around?
Sunday at Kansas.
The fans have risen to their feet.
Powered by the Plumbers and Pipefitters Local Union 234 on Jacksonville's voice of NASCAR. 1010XL.
Been in a car crash? I'm local attorney Rick Alexander, and I've made it our mission at the Alexander Law Practice to listen to you so I can fight for the best possible result for you. I've been practicing over 30 years, and our team focuses on guiding you through the entire process. And because fees and reimbursement costs come out at the end of the case, I will never ask you to come out of pocket. For a free review, call 904-400-6600 or log on to alexanderlawpractice.com, Jacksonville.
Track
Checkmate. I'm Brendan Cecilia, founder of Checkmate Coatings.
And I'm Chester, the Checkmate chess man.
At most companies, people start on the ground floor and work their way up to the corner office. At Checkmate, I started on the ground floor, and almost 20 years in, that's still where I am, making ground floors look awesome, one garage at a time.
Well, I started as a pawn and worked my way up to king.
No, you didn't. Some guy drew you as a king. I asked them to give you a roller, so at least you look like one of the guys.
Yes, I rather would have preferred a sword.
At Checkmate, I work personally with our teams to perfect the preparation and application techniques that make Checkmate floors beautiful and durable.
And I keep things classy with my adorable accent.
Beautiful floors?
Check. Guaranteed to last?
Check. The finishing touch your home deserves? Checkmate.
Transforming your floors, making them great. Checkmate.
Visit checkmatecoatings.com.
Get a healthy start in 2026. The Florida Department of Health in Duval County is here to help you get healthy and stay healthy all year long. Our dedicated team is committed to providing high-quality care and trusted public health services for our community. Our mission is simple: to protect, promote, and improve the health of you and your family. Learn more about our programs and services by visiting duval.floridahealth.gov.
Bueller. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy. Why so glum?
Stinky ice cubes, Jason. It's all downhill from here.
What?
The tap water at my place smells kind of funky. Funky tap water makes funky ice cubes. I meet a nice girl, invite her back to my place for a cocktail, and blow my whole romantic gesture with a mojito that smells like dog's feet.
Wait, I can totally make you way cooler.
I'm not taking your charity ice cubes, Jason. I have my pride.
Your pride is safe. Our plumbers can be at your house the day you call and install a whole home water purification system. Water tastes better, dishes come out cleaner, even your hair feels better after you shower.
Ooh, the ladies love a man with soft hair, don't they, Jason?
Life moves pretty fast. If you spend every day worried about the water in your own home, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Mortgage rates have dropped. They're expected to move lower. Home sales momentum is building. So now's the time to get your home ready to maximize your sales price. It's time to call Chad and Sandy, the proven experts to sell your home. Maybe you have concerns about putting your home on the market and getting it sold. Well, let me alleviate those for you. There's a real quick solution. Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold or they will buy it. Call 414-6200 or go to chadandsandy.com. You'll find out for yourself. Chad and Sandy, the local real estate experts I trust and recommend with the sale of your home or mine. Using their proprietary Market Max system, Chad and Sandy guarantee your home sold at an agreed-upon price and deadline, or they will buy it. Anthony and Mary in Palmco said, we needed to sell our home to move closer to family, but low cash offers weren't cutting it. Since we'd only bought a year earlier, options felt limited, but not for Chad and Sandy. Call Chad and Sandy today, or log on to chadandsandy.com.
1010XL, presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Focused, fueled, fearless, Farah. Now, the Monahan's golden moment. Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach, your local family jewelers.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Well, the Florida Gators wrapped up spring practice on Saturday with their spring game, the orange and blue game. Florida State is wrapping up spring practice this week with a scrimmage because there is no spring game in Tallahassee for the second straight year. You already know how I feel about that. But how does Logan Robinson of Noel Game Day feel about that? We're going to ask him, along with the big storylines coming out of spring practice, including what does the quarterback situation look like there for the Seminoles? Logan, again, Noel Game Day. He's also on the NFL side, the owner and the founder of Bucks Game Day, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Logan, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Ryan. Doing good. Wrapping up spring camp in Tallahassee, and then the Bucks have a big NFL draft coming up. So a busy April ahead for us.
Yeah, crazy that the Buccaneers now no longer have the services of Mike Evans, who's a 49er, and Levante David, who retired. Is a total changing of the guard down there in Tampa. We'll squeeze a Buccaneer question or two to you towards the end here. But as far as Florida State goes, you and I spoke right before spring practice began, so about 3 weeks or so ago. Now that it ends on Wednesday, from a mile-high view, what are your biggest takeaways from what Florida State was able to get accomplished this spring?
Well, Ryan, I think number one is that when we were talking previewing spring camp for FSU, we didn't necessarily know if it was going to be a true quarterback battle between Ashton Daniels, the Auburn transfer quarterback, or Kevin Sperry, the second-year now quarterback. And it was pretty clear after about a week that, hey, from people on the inside saying some things and also hearing from Mike Norvell in these press conferences that it is indeed a battle between Ashton and Kevin Sperry, where a lot of everyone going into it thought that, Ashton Daniels came in, was going to garner that starting job unless Kevin Sperry were to make some kind of jump and get down the playbook. Of course, Kevin Sperry has a little bit of lead on that, of course, to Ashton Daniels as he's a newcomer, but it wasn't clear that there was an actual QB battle. But now it sure is. Mike Norvell has spoken on that too. And it makes things interesting because Mike did tell us about a week ago, after that second scrimmage, he didn't know exactly when he would like to name a starting quarterback. He has not done that yet. We'll hear from him on Wednesday, I believe. Yes, we will. So on Wednesday, we'll hear from him and we'll get a final word on if he wants to name one of those quarterbacks as starters to end spring. But I personally don't think that will happen. I think we'll go into fall camp and we will, find out who is going to be that starting quarterback. Now, the thing that gets interesting, though, is FSU is going to have a third quarterback coming in, Malachi Marshall, really talented. I think has the most talent in this room, but is going to have to catch up big time, get the playbook down, build chemistry with those wide receivers, play with the tight ends, understand the offensive line, everything scheme-wise. So he's going to play some major catch-up. But talent-wise, I think you're seeing the most talented thrower that Florida State has had in a long time come in, and he's going to arrive this summer. So things might get a little interesting in the fall, and it's going to be interesting to see what Mike ends up doing here before this season.
Logan Robinson, the owner and the founder of Knoll Game Day, with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. And I'll give you credit because when we spoke before the spring, you were pretty adamant that you thought it would be a mistake if there was not a quarterback competition. If Ashton Daniels got handed this, you were very much against that, and you turned out to be correct. There certainly is a quarterback competition now.
And I don't think a lot of us were sold on it. So, I know some outlets and everything, whenever Gus Malzahn was here, okay, yes, that's where Gus Malzahn wants to go. He wants to go with Ashton Daniels. He's the one that brought him in. And then once we saw Gus Malzahn go into retirement and he announced that, I think that just completely opened up the door for what Kevin Sperry could bring to the table. And Mike Norvell, this is, he's going to be calling the plays this year. And he had the whole decision on he's going to pick who he thinks is best for it. And I just don't think, and there's no knock on Ashton here on this part of it. The spring, it's the spring. Like Ashton Daniels has to get this offense down. It's new to him. It might take him going into the fall camp, which I do believe it is going to take. I don't think, like I said, Mike is going to name him the starter yet. But it was going to take him a little bit to get some things down. Also, too, Kevin Sperry is still a learning quarterback as well. But like I said, when we were previewing it, you've got to have a quarterback battle. That would be ridiculous not to have one in the spring. I can understand if you feel confident in one, maybe going into fall camp, if someone were to take, a major lead on someone. But that just has not been the case. They did have their best offensive scrimmage over the weekend on Saturday. Mike Norvell did tell us he felt like both quarterbacks did well. They had multiple 90-yard drives, had some big splash plays down the field. So that's good. The offensive line is starting to build some chemistry too, which is huge, as that's a whole new unit in itself. So the offense was going to take a little while anyways, but the quarterback battle had to happen, Ryan.
Logan, outside of quarterback, what are one or two other things that you learned about this team this spring?
I'd say freshman. There's a few of them, but I'd say freshman wide receivers. And we're going to go with Devin Carter, a legacy wide receiver. He's a true freshman coming in. He's one, when I just said explosive plays, that was Devin Carter. He's a guy that's been flashing all throughout spring camp, in practices, and specifically in these scrimmages. He had two big plays on Saturday's scrimmage. and led them down there to be able to score. He's been consistent. He's been someone that is still growing. Obviously, it was just a true freshman coming in, but it seems like he's getting this offense down quickly. Mike Norvell has had success with younger wide receivers coming in and being able to click quickly. If you go back to Malik McLean, very, very early on in Mike Norvell's tenure at Florida State, and also too Javon Boggs, who ended up was an initial starter coming into last year as well as a true freshman. So Mike Norvell usually hits on some of these true freshmen. It's just now seeing what they can do on Saturday. There's also Jason Lopez, who's a two-way athlete, also plays basketball, who's been mentioned quite a bit all throughout spring. I've heard some good things about him and through some of these scrimmages as well. That's on the offensive side. And then I would say defensively, we have heard good things about Rylan Kennedy. Florida State has been struggling in pass rush the last few years. They hope that this Texas A&M transfer can do things that, I'm not going to say it's going to be anywhere close to it, but how Jermaine Johnson was at Georgia, where he didn't get a lot of playing time, wasn't out there a whole ton. Now they're hoping that maybe that could be the case for Rylan Kennedy, and you see that kind of product out on the field. But I still have my doubts on it because I've got the James Williams in my brain from whenever he transferred from Nebraska, and also didn't have a whole ton of playing time. But we've heard a lot of Rylan Kennedy, the young linebacker group, as well with some of those veterans as too. So there's some names, but I wouldn't say it was too much of a crazy, flashy spring, Ryan.
Logan, there's a lot of people that I talked to in and around the program that had concerns about the secondary coming into the spring. Have those concerns been, dealt with? And is that people feeling better about that, or are there still concerns coming out of the spring?
So it's funny you say that because we actually heard from Tony White today, and he spoke on that position group specifically. He feels confident about it. He said that it's taken a while, though, and I think that was expected coming into the spring. There were some moving pieces, and with Earl Little Jr. kind of shocking them a good bit, their star safety going and announcing that he was going to the NFL draft, and then says no, and then out of nowhere he's going to transfer to Ohio State. That shook up some things, and Ashton Barker into the transfer portal came back. It was a whole fiasco there, and also too lost some young players there as well. But with takeaways, guys getting to the ball fast, putting themselves in the right spots, I think there's some confidence building in that secondary. Got some new coaches there as well, at least at the cornerback position specifically. And he's going to pick who he feels like is best on that side. So I think there's been some nice, solid growth there. I think it's taken a little bit of time. And also, too, like I said, when you're facing off against quarterbacks that are battling with one another, these quarterbacks are taking some risky shots. It's allowed for these quarterbacks specifically. Guys that like Jabril Rawls, he's been limited throughout spring. So it's allowed for some of these younger guys like a Charles Lester to jump in there, which has helped a whole ton for him to build some experience. And also too, Quindarius Jones, who was also limited coming in, but he's been able to ramp things up. I really like Quindarius Jones. I think he'll be on the opposite side of Jabril Rawls if I were to predict right now. I've heard he's done really well off the field, mainly getting the scheme down. That was always his biggest issue. But the physical attributes, long, rangy, physical at the line, there's a lot to like there. So I think there's been growth. It was slow to begin spring, but it seems like Tony White liked how they finished spring.
Couple more for Logan Robinson, the owner and the founder of both Knoll Game Day and Bucks Game Day. I want to ask you a Bucks question or two as we wrap up with Florida State. And the only reason I'm asking this is I got a couple of diehard Seminole buddies, and they always keep tabs on Florida, just like Florida fans keep tabs on Florida State. It's the rivalry. When Florida got that 5-star offensive lineman last week and then got a 4-star quarterback the next day, and then they just flipped a 4-star corner on Saturday, I had Florida State buddies texting me like, that's interesting. Is what Summerall's doing in a short amount of time in Gainesville getting anybody's attention over there in Tallahassee?
I mean, I don't know if there's a whole ton of the Florida State fan base, to be honest with you, Ryan, that was too interested in this spring camp whatsoever. I think everybody is not really worried about the recruiting side of things at the moment, and they're just ready for what's going to happen on that first game in week 0 of college football whenever they face and have their first game. I really don't think they're too keen and worried about the recruiting side of things. Now, Florida State usually does and put in a lot of their effort and tries to get as many commitments before going into the season. That's where they usually do most of their work. So summer is very busy for them. So I'm sure they're keeping a close eye on what Summerall's doing. And he's a new coach. He's in his first year, had that spring game, something that, Florida State did not have this year, and building a lot of buzz there. And, he's got a lot of energy, something that Mike Norvell also has as well. And it's a little bit, it's different kind of time, and he's a younger coach too. So I'm sure there's some buy-in as well. But I don't think too much, at least I'm sure maybe internally for Florida State and Mike and his staff are, of course, keep an eye on that kind of stuff. But at least from the fan base, I would not worry about that. Certainly in this day and age and NIL and how high school recruiting is now, we'll wait till early signing day.
I wanted to ask you, we mentioned Mike Evans and Levante David out of Tampa Bay. You cover the Bucks as closely as you cover Florida State with Bucks game day as well. Boy, what a changing of the guard for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this offseason.
Yeah, it's been a wild one. And I'll tell you, Ryan, I was not even thinking, going into, training camp at this time last year, like coming in, later in the summer, like this team, Mike Evans, he showed up in phenomenal shape, looked like his hamstring. He did a really good job on that throughout the offseason. Levante David, too. But you knew Levante David was nearing the end of his career as well and wanted to go out with a bang. And this entire team was kind of settling on that, I would say, because interview after interview after interview, we kept hearing this is a Super Bowl caliber team. Levante David, this is why I came back. I feel like we have a strong potential here. And Mike Evans, like, this is it. This is what we have. We got the quarterback. I've got Baker. We've got tons of young wide receiver talent. And they had just grabbed Emeka Egbuka in the first round. The offense is stacked. That offensive line is coming back. And then it just, as we know, it collapsed in the latter half. And you would have never thought that, hey, the next year you lose both of your premier franchise leaders, both offensively and defensively, just like that. And two different kind of scenarios with Mike Evans saying, I don't really need all the money. I want to go play for a different coach. And I think that's specifically what this was all day long for Mike Evans. And then Levante David, he loves Todd Bowles. He loves playing for Todd Bowles. It's a reason why Levante David didn't go to another team whenever Todd Bowles was, turned into the head coach. When Bruce Arians decided to retire, he wanted to play for Todd Bowles, but he loves Todd Bowles and all that. But he was ready to go ahead and hang it up as well. So it's Jason Light, the general manager for the Bucks, and then they're in a weird spot and a very important season ahead for not only Todd Bowles, but I think Jason Light as well. They got to do a good job in this NFL draft and fix some certain areas.
Logan, we got 90 seconds. Final question. It was announced about 2 weeks ago that Jacksonville is going to play their 2027 home games down there in Orlando. I actually think Tampa Bay is scheduled to travel to Jacksonville, so the Jags and the Bucks are going to play more likely in Orlando in 2027. Orlando has kind of been a Dolphin town, but Tampa Bay is the closest in proximity. From a fan base perspective, I mean, what's the thought on Jacksonville kind of infiltrating Buccaneer land down there on I-4 for the 2027 campaign?
Well, it's going to be it's interesting. I don't think it's too much of I haven't heard from any of the Bucs fan base on it really. I know that there is a lot of Bucs fans that are in that area. It's very, like you said, very close I-4. Sometimes it depends on the traffic, though, Ryan. It could be 1 hour and a half, or it could be 3 hours. But,
yeah.
Good luck to any Bucs fans headed that way if they're Jags fans for games in 2027. But the really interesting thing here is also, too, the Bucs are kind of in the same scenario where they're going to have to look to find where they're going to play, because they're going to have and the future here, because their contract or their expiration date is coming up on their stadium in Raymond James. So the ownership group there is going to have to figure out where the Bucs are going to be playing, while they're not going to be able to have games at their home stadium. So, it might be, the Jags will be first. That'll be a good test, the guinea pig for it. And then you might just end up seeing the Bucs there in a few years anyways, when they got to renovate Raymond James.
Logan Robinson is the owner and the founder of both Knoll Game Day and Bucks Game Day. Logan, quickly, tell Florida State fans here in Jacksonville what you'll have on Knoll Game Day as spring practice comes to an end.
Yeah, Ryan, we're going to have a lot of takeaways from spring practice. I know the fan base isn't fully invested at the moment, but there is still a lot to take away from it, including this quarterback battle. We'll have some insight to that as well, including Mike Norvell. Is he going to name a starting quarterback or not? That's over there at KnollGameDay.com, and also to Knoll Game Day on YouTube.
Logan, I know you're busy, man. Thank you as always for the time. We'll do it again soon, pal.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
And thank you to Logan Robinson, the owner and the founder of Knoll Game Day, for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark. Always appreciate the conversation with Logan as Florida State wrapping up spring practice. I believe their final scrimmage was today. Of course, no spring game for Florida State, but their final scrimmage was today. Like in Gainesville, maybe a little quarterback battle in Gainesville, potentially a quarterback battle brewing in Tallahassee. And we all know what's at stake for Mike Norvell this year. They're 7-17 in their last 2 years. Heck, they haven't won a road game in their last 2 years, losing 17 of their last 24. Almost unfathomable for Florida State football at an absolute minimum. I mean, a minimum. Florida State would need to make a bowl game this year. There is not a world, to me, there is not a circumstance that's even worth talking about where if Florida State misses out on a bowl game 3 years in a row, that Mike Norvell would return. At that point, the buyout be darned. So it's a big year for Norvell. We'll ultimately see what happens, but we certainly appreciate Logan Robinson of Knoll Game Day for joining us tonight. We also spent some time on the NBA playoffs, the play-in. Boy, last night, Charlotte and Miami. How good was that? Charlotte and Miami was absolutely spectacular last night. You also had a really, really good one between Portland and Phoenix. Portland winning on the road, upsetting Phoenix. So what does that mean? All right, well, Charlotte still needs to win another game. They are not in the playoffs yet. Charlotte now will take on the loser of the game going on right now between Orlando and Philadelphia on Friday night in a winner-take-all scenario. Portland is in the playoffs. Phoenix now will host the winner of tonight's Clippers-Warriors game on Friday night in a winner-take-all scenario. So round one of the playoffs will be set on Friday. The winner of Orlando-Philadelphia will be in the playoffs. And again, the loser will take on Charlotte Friday in a must-win scenario. So we certainly spent some time on that. But as you can imagine, a lot of time was spent on the Jacksonville Jaguars. 1 week from tomorrow until the NFL draft. We are 8 days away. Now, in Jacksonville's circumstance, they're going to do most of their damage on Friday. They have 4 picks on Friday, 11 draft picks total. But there won't be a day that goes by over the next week that we don't spend a large portion of our time on the Jaguars and the National Football League draft. Well, that will just about do it, man. Very, very busy Wednesday night edition of Hacker After Dark. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. And we have a ton of people to thank. Again, Logan Robinson, the owner and the founder of Knoll Game Day. Thank you to Sean Devaney. Sean's been one of my NBA guys for years. He's with Heavy.com, and we always enjoy the conversation talking NBA playoffs with Sean. And then back in hour number 1, Mark Long of the Associated Press, as we reviewed the Jaguar offseason, previewed the draft, and certainly looked a little bit at Florida as well, as Mark does a great job for the AP covering both Florida and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, we will be back tomorrow night on a Thursday, and we will do it all over again beginning at 8 o'clock. Aaron Williams was your producer tonight. Aaron, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark, on 1010XL, and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have a terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will talk to you again tomorrow night on a Thursday beginning at 8 o'clock.